Welcome back to Unmasking Crimes, where we dig into history's most twisted minds. Today, I've got a real gem, a true cannibal, one of those creepy, mysterious figures who's not just real, but a bizarre media star in his homeland. Where else but Japan, that wild island where genius and madness blur like soy sauce on rice. We're diving, teeth first, into the insane tale of Issei Sagawa, the Kobe Cannibal. Issei Sagawa was born April 26, 1949, in Kobe, home of the world's best beef and some seriously warped tastes. Issei was premature and fragile. He had a small intestine condition called enteritis. Picture a runt puppy, tiny, sickly, and odd as a three-headed cat. That weakness defined him, turning him into a quiet, introverted kid, lost in books and some truly messed up thoughts. His parents, not your typical broken home stereotype, no abuse, no beatings, just obscene wealth and influence. His mom was a big shot at a major Japanese newspaper, and his dad ran Kurita Water Industries, basically drowning in money and power. Why does this matter? Because their riches set the stage for Issei to become, as I hinted earlier, a twisted kind of rock star in Japan today. But we'll get to that later. For now, picture young Issei, a solitary, pint-sized oddball who didn't get bullied much, just ignored. He wasn't suffering in the playground. He was too busy dreaming about being someone's lunch. Yes, you heard that right. From a tender age, Issei was haunted, and then obsessed, by a recurring dream of being boiled alive in a pot, cooked up like a human ramen special. At first, it terrified him, but then it started to excite him. What began as a nightmare morphed into a weird, addictive fantasy about one human devouring another, even if he was the main course. And folks, this is where the train starts veering off the tracks. Issei hit puberty early, and his sexual awakening wasn't exactly hearts and flowers. He's admitted, brace yourselves, that he experimented with his dog. I'll spare you the gruesome details, but let's just say his poor pooch didn't sign up for that kind of bonding. We're talking a 12 or 13-year-old kid acting on impulses he couldn't satisfy with humans. Not yet, anyway. Once he'd scratched that beastly itch, his obsessions took a new turn. Human pelvises. Didn't matter if you were a man or a woman at first. But over time, his tastes refined. Blonde, European, gorgeous women became his holy grail. Fast forward to his teens, and Issei was devouring books. See what I did there? Hunting for anything featuring cannibalism. He stumbled across the Aztecs and their heart-eating rituals, where they'd chow down on their enemies to absorb their strength. That idea, consuming someone to make them part of you, stuck with him like a bad stain. For all his mental chaos, though, he was no slouch. Brilliant, cultured, and driven. He set his sights on becoming an English philologist, acing his way into Waseda University, one of Japan's top schools. And that's where the danger clicked into overdrive. At Waseda, Issei's fantasies stopped being just creepy bedtime stories. They started spilling into reality. He began visiting prostitutes, and not just for the usual reasons. Picture this. He'd pull out a little knife. Cute, right? Press it to their throats, and threaten to kill and eat them. Then, in a twisted game of tit for tat, he'd beg them to do the same to him. This macabre role play with working girls? It unshackled something in him, a rehearsal for the real deal. By 24, while finishing his master's in English Lit, he took it further. He stalked a stunning blonde German exchange student through Kobe's streets, broke into her house, and planned to slice off a chunk of her, well, let's call it her lower cheeks. His grand plan? Run off with the meat and have himself a snack. But here's where it gets messy, and not just in the literal sense. When he crept into her room, knife in hand, and grazed her skin, she woke up, screamed bloody murder, and he bolted. Caught red-handed, right? Nope. Daddy's money and influence swooped in like a superhero. A hefty payout, probably millions, hushed it all up, and Issei walked free. Still, Japan was cramping his style. Too strict, too controlled, too few blonde Europeans to fuel his fantasies. So, what's a budding cannibal to do? He packed his bags, waved bye-bye to Kobe, and headed to Paris for a doctorate at the Sorbonne. Because nothing screams higher learning like chasing your PhD and your prey across continents. So, Issei realized that he had to stick to the plan. After shooting Renee Hartvelt dead on June 11, 1981, he didn't waste time. First, he had relations with her corpse, Because apparently, romance isn't dead until you say it is. Then he tried biting into her, only to discover, shocker, his puny human teeth weren't up to the task. Off he went to buy a butcher's knife. Because when you're committed to cannibalism, you don't mess around with dull cutlery. He returned, sliced, and ate. And when I say ate, I don't mean he whipped up a gourmet dish. No. This guy went full raw dog, chowing down on her flesh like it was some twisted sashimi experiment. He loved it, couldn't get enough. But then, inspiration struck. Why not channel his inner Hannibal Lecter? He hauled her into the kitchen, fired up the stove, and cooked her like a deranged celebrity chef. According to him, the dishes were delicious, with a texture that reminded him of sushi. Sorry, sushi fans, you'll never look at your California roll the same way again. He kept going until he was stuffed, then chopped up what was left of poor Renee. Some bits went into the fridge for later, like twisted leftovers, and a few days later, he stuffed the rest into suitcases. His brilliant disposal plan dumped them in Paris's Bois de Boulogne, a massive park by the Seine. Pro tip, Issei. Rivers aren't deep enough to hide suitcases with arms sticking out. Sure enough, some tourists spotted the luggage, and the lovely appendage poking out. Despite the body's state, the French police, way sharper than their Japanese counterparts back then, tracked it back to Issei. And guess what? He didn't even try to deny it. He confessed everything. The necrophilia, the cutting, the cooking. He even admitted to photographing the whole process, start to finish. There's an album out there, locked away in some Parisian evidence vault, so disturbing it's left seasoned investigators shook. Ever the refined cannibal, Issei even rated the cuts. Apparently the breasts were the juiciest, offering the most culinary versatility. A regular Michelin star maniac, this guy. But here's where the story takes a turn so wild it'll make your jaw drop. This isn't just about the murder. Plenty of cannibals have stained history, from medieval weirdos to prehistoric snack enthusiasts. No, the real kicker? Issei only got 2 years in a French prison. 2 for a crime this heinous? You'd expect decades, right? Turns out, his dad's wealth worked miracles again. Reports later revealed Papa Sagawa shelled out a fortune to French authorities, securing a slap-on-the-wrist sentence and a one-way ticket back to Japan, on the condition Issei be locked up in a psychiatric facility for life. Except, they faked a terminal illness to speed up the extradition. That was a lie bigger than his appetite. Back in Japan, he spent a grand total of 15 months in a psych ward, not a lifetime. His dad pulled strings again, and a new evaluation declared him perfectly sane. A temporary psychotic break, they said. Fit to roam free, and roam he did, straight into the spotlight. Here's a chilling quote from Issei himself, recorded by the judge and echoed in the later years.
For a long time, I'd wanted to eat her. Often, I'd crave human flesh. During sex, I'd fantasize about devouring my partner. I'd torment myself wondering why eating human meat was forbidden. The temptation was too strong. I stripped her, abused her body, then started cutting. As I sliced with an electric knife, I wasn't a doctor. I was Mephistopheles himself, photographing every step.
And cold as ice, right? Gives you chills just hearing it. So what happened after his release from that Tokyo psych ward? Did he fade into obscurity? Nope. Japan turned him into a media star. People were obsessed. Like, sure, he ate a woman, but what a story. He wrote poetry books, detailed his crime and memoirs, did countless TV interviews, popped up on reality shows, even allegedly filmed an erotic tape reenacting the murder. The guy became a macabre celebrity, a walking urban legend. Has he killed again? Eaten again? Not that we know. He claims the urge still flickers, but swears he'd never take another life. Says he did it out of love, a twisted tribute to Renee's beauty, eating her to make her part of him forever. Now, he says he sees it was wrong. For 30, 40 years, he's kept that promise. Or so he claims. Living in Tokyo under a low profile but still famous, he's been the subject of thousands of documentaries. So, what do you think, Unmasking Crimes crew? Was 2 years and change enough? Can a guy like this live among us? If this story chilled you to the bone or made you rethink your sushi order, drop a like and let me know in the comments. Should he still be free? For more macabre mysteries, subscribe to Unmasking Crimes and hit that bell. Until then, stay safe and curious. Bye.